Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I'm diving into a beautiful and expansive deck called The Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler. And this is a deck that is very different from the decks that I studied from the time I was a teenager until now, the decks that I've used and that I'm accustomed to, which are generally based on the Golden Dawn traditions, the RWS, the Smith-Waite, or the Thoth, the Harris-Crowley decks, and their various iterations and recreations and the beautiful diversity of all of those wonderful decks. But this deck is very different. This deck is based on the creator, Christine Payne-Towler's, extensive and exhaustive research of the continental European tarot systems and the esoterica, which is enwrapped in all of that. And so, what do? Every day, I pick a card, I draw a card, a daily draw. These days I'm doing it the night before. I slide the card under my pillow without looking at it. That's an entirely different conversation, but that's what I'm doing. And then in the morning I look at the card and I recognize the thoughts and the meanings that arise for me as I see the card from my study of the Golden Dawn decks. I do that, and I deliberately do that, so that I can disengage them, so that I can detangle them from the image that I'm seeing on the card itself. Because I want to face this card as innocently as I possibly can, with as little preconceived notions, with as few preconceived notions as I possibly can. So I acknowledge the things that I recognize that arise for me, and I try to separate those out. And I look at the card as it is, as much as I can. And to help me with that, I use an RWS deck to help me unpack the card as I see it. And I do a 3-card draw. I do the first card being the significance, the second card being the obstacle, the third card being the advice. Significance, obstacle, advice. Typical 3-card spread. And then I live my day. And at the end of the day, I pull out my trusted guidebook for the Tarot of the Holy Light, and I see what the creator had intended the card to represent, and see how that manifested or did not manifest for me during the day. And so that's where we are now. Now I'm doing the filming portion of this series of events. And the card that I got today was the 3 of Wands. Now this is a beautiful card. Full confession. Does this ever, for my tarot readers out there, does this ever happen to you? You do the final cut of your deck, and you think you see the card that's presenting itself, and as you're moving the deck away, the bottom card drops down. So what I do is, when that happens, I say, oh, so that bottom card really, really wanted to be my card for the day. So that was the 3 of Wands. But I peeked. I peeked to see what was the first potential card of the day, and it was the Ace of Swords in reverse. I'm sorry, it was in reverse. And that has shown up for me before. And so I was thinking, okay, so I could read these completely separately, or I could let this color this a little bit. So what do I see here? At the very, very top, there's a banner there with text on it. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to let you see that clearly. I'll just read it for you here. The text says, Virtus unita fortiro. Sorry, Virtus unita fortiro, which means virtues united are stronger. The virtues, 7, there are usually we think of the 7 virtues, right? The 7 sins, the 7 virtues, well, however many you want to pick. The virtues united are stronger than any one individually, right? And so here we see not only the 3 wands, we also see a 3-headed snake. So yeah, those 3 heads working together are going to be a lot stronger than one head wanting to go off this way, the other head wanting to do something else, and the third head saying, no, I want to stay here and mess around, right? So these 3 heads working together would be much stronger. And you'll see the sun coming up in the background, a very bright, powerful card. The moon here is on the side. It looks like it's a waxing moon to me, as opposed to a waning moon. So power, perhaps, coming into one's power. Manifested, getting ready for manifestation, getting ready for that powerful full moon. This is the beginning, the waxing crescent. So all of those things were running through my mind, this beautiful, strong, powerful, healthy tree as well. Mountains, a beautiful, very, very lush landscape as well, with a river running through it. A river runs through it. So a beautiful, healthy looking card. And so I pulled my 3 cards for the day. My 3 cards to help me unpack that 3 of Wands. Nice balance there, right? 3 of Wands, 3 cards. So let me show you those cards right now. You saw the cards that showed up for me were, from left to right, the Knight of Swords, then the 2 of Cups as the obstacle or the potential obstacle, yeah. And then the last card being the advice, the Queen of Cups. A beautiful card for advice. So what was I thinking? Well, remember this card came up as a possible sidecar to my daily draw, a swords card, yeah? The sword pointing down, perhaps an inbreaking of thought, perhaps a thought that splits the interior, that opens up the self. So that Knight of Swords seemed even more significant to me. So what was I thinking about this Knight of Swords? You see this knight dashing off into the distance with a beautiful bird flying above the person's head. Card of adventure, leaping into the unknown, going where you haven't gone before, mentally, communicatively. So something that's adventurous and energetic and willing to explore things that have not been explored yet. Getting not a new perspective, but peering into the unknown and moving in that direction. Now the knights are all very mobile personages in the suits, right? Now the shadow, the obstacle here could be relationships. Could be not that the relationships are necessarily bad or that their relationships themselves are standing in the way, but the relationships could be distracting from this. And maybe I'm reading back into what I was thinking at the beginning of the day because of what happened during the day, but that is what I recall thinking about this card for today, was that this isn't a disunion, but perhaps that some interactions with people might might take the time away from my ability to do this. Does that make sense? And so the advice was, now I usually think of the Queen of Cups as being the empathetic one, the compassionate one, the caring one, the one who flows emotion to other people and connects and heals the world. And this time I saw this as, well, no, maybe this is the card of intuition for me today. The one who is there, completely immersed in the subconscious. And notice how the Queen's eyes, no, that's another deck. There's another deck where if you look closely at the Queen's eyes, Though her eyes are closed, they're also open. And actually, that might be the High Priestess in this deck. Anyways, you see how the Queen's eyes are closed, right? She's completely immersed in her own experience, in her own emotional experience, and her own, perhaps, intuitive experience of wisdom, her own inner wisdom, her own inner knowledge. And so, though that's what I was thinking going into the day, and I lived my day, thinking, I want to go on this mental adventure. I want to take the leap into the unknown. I want to be careful of spending too much time on relationships with other people. And I also want to allow that knowledge to well up from within, to be a spring, a font of knowledge, as they say. And so, like I said, I lived my day. And at the end of the day, I pulled out my book, and let me read you some of what I highlighted from this. There's a lot that's here, because there is a lot, believe it or not, there really is a lot of symbolism in here. It looks like a much simpler card than so many others, but there's a lot that is represented here. And I'm not going to get into all of it, but let me begin. The ribbon on the Three of Wands bears the Latin motto, virtues united are stronger. Now, I will admit that I looked that up on the web when I got to work today. So I already knew that before reading this. Virtues united are stronger. Curiosity got the best of me. But I kind of knew most of it. I knew virtues, I knew united, I knew strength. I didn't know that it was a comparative stronger, but virtues, united virtues are strong. That's kind of what I was imagining it meant, and so that's why I checked on the internet. And in every way, this is the card of teamwork, for better and for worse. Teamwork. Now remember this, right? Not all relationships for me today were the distracting kind. There was also teamwork that happened, and I'll get to that in a bit. So yes, teamwork. Another motto for this card could be all for one and one for all, like the Three Musketeers. The mission is clear. Your companions are in agreement, so now it's time to proceed with all your powers and capabilities at the ready. The rising sun and setting moon, see, I didn't see it as a setting moon. I saw it as a crescent, a waxing crescent, but it's not an important thing. Bless your goal. And the alchemical serpent on the tree of life. Now, I didn't realize that this would be the tree of life, but the alchemical serpent, that's what that is, on the tree of life, promises aid from invisible powers. Well, that's pretty cool, huh? Inherent in each endeavor is a substantial portion of risk which cannot be avoided and which is guaranteed to produce a huge loss if things go badly. So with every venture taken, there is a risk also taken, right? And we see that in other threes of wands, other Three of Wands cards, let's say it that way. For this reason, the idea of the team is featured here, with checks and balances provided by seasoned assistants. One person's grandiosity has less chance to scuttle the project. So if I got people around helping me, or if I got people around supporting me, or that I'm working with other people, my Leo ego might be counterbalanced by others. What I took away from that. So, yes. Where is this? Here we go. The early Kabbalists used the three-headed snake as a symbol of divine will, making its mark on time and space. The circular shape of this serpent also suggests motion and action, now that we have moved beyond the doubts and hesitations of the deuce, of the Two of Wands. Yeah, Two of Wands cards, it's a binary thing, and there's indecision there. We're not really sure exactly which way we're going. We've got to make a decision. The three is the moving towards taking the first steps after this decision has been made. So this circularness of this card can refer to the courage it takes to be, the courage that takes to move past those doubts and hesitations. So this card is, by the way, Jupiter in Aries. Jupiter, the planet in the sign of Aries. So Jupiter challenges us to rise above our personal limitations and reach for a goal that brings value to our whole family, tribe, or nation. So these are grandiose possible goals here. However, in Capricorn, Mars is adulated as a harbinger, not however yet. In Capricorn, Mars is adulated as a harbinger of future victories. So there are possible future victories here in this expansive Jupiter setting. However, of course, the danger for Mars is in exaltation, is that his head might swell if he begins to believe his sponsor's rhetoric. Now, with all of this expansive Jupiter energy, I don't like using that word too much, but all this Jupiter energy surrounding Aries, the head can go like a big balloon, right? Which is dangerous because things that expand too far pop and deflate uncomfortably. So those were some of the things that were possible for me today. And I think this card really did, that card too, but this card really did manifest itself for me in one particular way. And not much happened today, but something did happen today. I got to work and I got to reading. And as I was reading my book by Eliphas Levi, I was starting to feel uneasy about, was I really getting this card? Was I really understanding what was going on? I was thinking, I want to pull more cards. And I've got a couple of decks on my desk at work, and one of them that I usually pull from is a deck by a Rich Black, beautiful, beautiful graphic art style deck, a beautiful small deck, printed on eco-friendly paper with eco-friendly ink. It's just a fabulous symbol-rich RWS deck. And I usually go for that when I'm at my desk. And I was thinking maybe I should pull from that, but oddly, my hand started going off to the other side where I happened to have two of my Marseille decks. And inside of me was this voice that, you haven't been playing with your Marseille decks very much. You haven't touched your Marseille decks in a while. You should be working with your Marseille decks. So my hand was going over to that and I grabbed my Noblet. And I did a 3-card spread. Now, when I read Tarot de Marseille, I don't do positional spreads. I don't say, this card is significance, this card is the obstacle, this is the advice. I just lay 3 cards and I read them as they are, and I let them teach me how they want to be read. So I pulled 3 cards. And let me show you those cards right now. Didn't think you'd get another one of those today, did you? So yes, I did another 3-card spread. I did a 3-card spread with my Noblet deck, beautifully produced by Artisan Tarot, by the way. They're still on sale, just saying. It's a wonderful, wonderful deck, so easy to shuffle. It's like casino grade cardstock, and it's a lovely deck. It's still in the office. I've got my other Noblet deck by Fleur and so you saw those cards, right? They were the Strength card, the World card, and the Page of Cups, like this. Now, this isn't the deck that you just saw. This is my Fleur, and this cardstock is a little more difficult to shuffle. It's a little noisier, and it kind of hurts my fingers. Just saying. But I love this deck. And so what I saw when I saw these cards together was both of these beings, both the Strength card person and the Page of Cups card person, they were both facing the world person. And so I saw to me that this is the center of the reading for this one. And that makes sense, yeah? The circularness of the snake and the Three of Wands, the circularness of the laurel wreath here in the center gives a good mirror, yeah? So if I want completion, if I want integration, if I want that sense of success for today, these two figures need to come together and meet here and become here, which is interesting because oftentimes this figure is hermaphroditic. And particularly in this Noble deck, the figure in the world card could be male, could be female. It's probably hermaphroditic. So having this female presenting figure and this male presenting figure coming together to create this made absolute sense to me. So what do I need to combine? I need to combine my ability to communicate with my interior self. I need to have the strength of interior, not union so much, but interior alignment, interior dialogue. And I also need this Page of Cups' innocence and ability to look at things with fresh eyes, with fresh heart, with fresh intuition. Which was interesting because just a little while after I pulled those cards, I was reading, like I said, my Eliphas Levi book, and something came up in that book that just felt like I don't want to say, okay, yes I do. I want to say it felt like a slap on the face. It wasn't that harsh, but it did take me back. There were a couple of things, and I'm going to try and remember exactly what they were. The first one was the pairing of the angel. Okay, let me use this as a guide. So as Levi was talking about these characters, yeah, the lion is fire and the bull is earth. But for Levi, this figure here, the human angel figure, is water. And this eagle here is air, which I know other people say, but to me, this angel figure is Aquarius, which is an air sign. This eagle is Scorpio, which is a water sign. So that just made me feel a little bit uneasy, just briefly. And then barely a page later in the book, Levi was associating the signs and the elements and their relationship to each other. And right there on the page was that but fire and water were feminine and earth and air were masculine. And I was like, what? I have always learned, and I've always thought I knew, that fire and air are the masculine active signs, and water and earth are the feminine receptive signs. Active, receptive. The protruding ones, the receiving ones. Now the wands, the swords, and then the cups and the discs. And I don't like, personally, I don't like associating gender with those, because I think there's so much that is tied up with those words of masculine and feminine that I think we need to fix before we start using them again, or we find different words for them. But still, putting both fire and water not as a pair of complementary things, but as two of the same thing, and then air and earth as not as complementary things, but as two of the same thing, just took me back. I didn't want to get my head around it. Let me put it that way. I didn't want to get my head around it. I'm sure I could have easily, but I didn't want to get my head around it. And so I shot a message off to Christine Payne-Towler and said, my brain is unhappy. I was a little less whiny, but that's kind of how I felt. And then, and she said something, she said a lot, but one thing that really, really got into me, got through to me is the way I wanted to say it, is maybe we could act as if it were true. And it's that as if that got into me, and I suddenly, poof, things shifted into place, like a lot clicking together. Because I don't know if you know this, but I studied theater when I was in college, and I worked in theater for about 10 years after college, and I studied Stanislavski, and one of the major things in Stanislavski's teachings on theater, he was the first one to really teach acting as a form of art that is expressing a realism, that is reaching for realism. And Stanislavski is also a friend of Chekhov, who's one of the early modern playwrights of realism, whole other conversation, but still. One of the things that there's a whole chapter on the magic if, because that is the technique of an actor. That is the actor's magic wand. It's the actor's key into a role in a play. The magic if. You don't pretend something's happening. You imagine, if you were this person, what would you do? If this person did this, what would they think? What would they feel? Where would they go? It's the magic if. And that if we could just, her suggestion that I just imagine if this were true, fixed it all for me, basically. I mean, it took a little bit more time. I heard that, I thought, yeah, right. And then I took a nap. And it's really probably when I was taking that nap that it all worked itself out for me, maybe like this. So I was able to wrap my head around it as looking at it from different perspectives, as different cultural perspectives. Christine Payne-Towler may not completely agree with the way I approached fixing it for myself, but I fixed it for myself enough for me to just get past it, and not even get past it, but now I believe to be able to work within it. Magic if, and my things that I've remembered studying about other cultures, I think have solved that for me in a very collaborative setting. Like this. And I will also admit that there were some of these today as well. Not with Christine Payne-Towler, but there were a couple of people who were messaging me on Messenger, Facebook, and they apparently have some interest in me, and so interesting things that will not lead anywhere, fun distraction, and yes, distraction. They distracted me from perhaps maybe going a little bit farther with what I was studying. Not in such a way that I feel like the day is a loss or anything, but though these kinds of interactions did pose a little bit of an obstacle to perhaps going even further. Does that make sense? What do you think? What did you think about my pulling in a Marseille deck on top of an RWS deck, on top of the Tarot of the Holy Light? Am I just going way too far into left field or right field or outside of the ballpark? Let me know. So friends, if you are still here, hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and other people might get something out of it as well. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit that alarm bell, because in a couple of weeks I'm not going to be uploading daily, and you'll want to know when I do upload. And comment below. I would love to hear from you. What do you think? What do you think about the way I read those Marseille cards? Would you have read those differently? Let me know. And if you want a private reading from me, you know what to do. I've told you enough times already. There's an email address in the description box below. Shoot me an email. Say, I want a reading. We'll work it out. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.